So it's Justin and Lindsey again with Business Back and Forth. And today's episode is going to be about moments in maturity, the value of partnerships as a small business, and being careful to protect yourself. So I think this is going to be a good one, so buckle in.
It is.
So my first question to you, Justin, would be, talk to me about the meaning of partnership in this context.
Yes. So partnership in the context of this podcast and this conversation pertains to one business working with another business on initiatives. Often you see this. I'll give an example many people can relate to. If you are a home builder, you have partners that do the electricity work, that do the landscaping, that do the roof. A home builder may not have all of those employees working for them full time, so they use partners to get the project complete. And the same thing happens often in our world of technology, where we have our specific area of expertise, but a client need may arise or a problem needs to be solved that's outside of our realm. And so it's important for us to maintain good partnerships to bring other people to the table who can help, who can work with us, work with our client, and help solve whatever problem we're working on. A good example in our world is we don't major in data analytics, but we have a go-to partner firm that we bring in for data and analytics. And that's based upon trust. We know them. We know the quality of their work. We have very carefully reviewed their credentials and then as people to be willing to bring them to the table and put our name behind them. So that's where the value of positive partnerships is so important.
Mm-hmm. Because I would imagine that when you're extending your company and your brand and what you've worked for, you want to partner with somebody that's going to also represent you in a sense as well as their company, because it's a big deal.
Well, especially as a small business, we have 9 people as of this recording. We don't have a bench full of people sitting there waiting to work on the next project. We're very careful on assignments. And we can't do it all. And no one looks at us and says, we expect you to do it all. Yep. That would be insane. So it's an open dialogue that as a small business, yes, we are going to leverage partners now and then.
Mm-hmm. So with that being said, what makes for a great partner for a small business like yours?
Yeah, a great partner is going to be someone that you trust implicitly. A great partner is going to be someone that you can openly riff on ideas with. You can have a conversation, pull up on the phone or on Zoom and talk through a problem statement, riff on it collaboratively, and you just have that shared understanding that you're in this together. It's not a competition. You're not trying to beat someone out for a contract. It's not short term. It's just a long term. It's kind of like you would when you reach out to a friend and need advice. It's the same sort of thing. Those are the values that I look for in a strategic partner, and that's why we continue to bring them to the table and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. And it's supporting each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I mean, it's not a competition. It's really working together to obtain the goals that y'all were hired for and that type of thing.
Yeah, it is.
So what are some characteristics of not so good partners?
Well, unfortunately, I've had some experience with not so good partners as well. And I think the characteristics of those are the ones you meet with or potentially bring opportunities to, and they take it and run. Kind of like on a silver platter, it's been brought out to them, and they say, "Oh, thanks for this intel. See ya," and leave you in the dust. A bad partner is one that doesn't engage in conversation, doesn't check in every once in a while, doesn't reciprocate. I think that's a big deal. It's not a tit for tat, right? It's not that, oh, I brought you into this opportunity, I expect one in return. But periodically, yeah, it should be bidirectional. Yeah. And there's no one's keeping score, but eventually it would be nice to see some reciprocation in the relationship. Not unlike a positive relationship with a friend, right? You want the same thing. You don't want the friend who's always calling you with their problems. You want the friend who calls with their problem and sometimes asks, how are you doing? Partners are the same way in a business context. So those are characteristics of ones that are less desirable to work with, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And that's where that ties into the respect aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And just being considerate human beings to each other, because at the end of the day, we're working in small businesses and we're trying to live the American dream of owning small businesses.
Correct.
And succeeding and putting food on the table for each other, you know?
Yeah, there's the APG in our company name originally stood for Aligned Partner Group. And the idea when the company was started was, we know APG is not going to be everything to everyone, but we're going to be like that general contractor, the home builder who brings in all the trades to get the work done. Now, our team has grown and we've honed that and narrowed that in a ton since then. But the idea of partnerships has been critical to us as a small business since day one.
So is there a reason you need to protect yourself when it comes to working with partners?
Yeah, there are. There are a number of reasons. I think it's important to put in place a mutual NDA so that you can talk about stuff openly and not worry about ideas being stolen or IP being stolen, anything like that. That's no matter if you've known this person for 5 minutes or 5 years or 50 years, it's good to put that in place just to protect yourself. A good example of that is a partner that we've worked with in the past has started out really small and has now grown. They're a really sizable company. So now there are a lot of other new people involved that I don't know quite as well. So I need that NDA to protect us in a worst case event where I knew the founders and was very comfortable with them. That NDA protects us as they bring in other voices to conversation. So you have to protect yourself in that sense. And I think and I know you always ask about lessons learned and what would you do differently. I'm going to go ahead and head one off at the pass. Having some check-ins now and then and open dialogue about clients is a big deal. We got burned in good faith. We had good faith in a conversation and we ended up getting burned. And I'll elaborate. In our earliest days as a company, we did not have an engineering team to build software. So we brought someone who is a partner to the table for a conversation with a new client. And this new client, for context, a dear friend of mine introduced me to a senior executive at this company. She's a dear friend. She was willing to go out on a limb and introduce me to the senior executive who is also a friend of hers. So she made this introduction, we hit it off, and the senior executive is someone who I still consider a friend today. I really like this person a ton. And she was gracious enough to invite me in to meet with her technology team and explain what we do. Well, I brought along a partner to that conversation to explain what they do. And in the dialogue, I explained, yeah, we're small. So when it comes to software engineering, we need to bring in a partner to do that piece of the work. But we work as one team and we're accustomed to doing this. Lesson learned, I should have done more check-ins after that initial introduction. The partner I brought into the table actually peeled off and had sidebar conversations with this client without me. And it wasn't until years later that I knew they had, following that, had tons of work as a result of that meeting. And I never got a thank you note. I never got certainly not a referral bonus.
Right.
But I'll take a thank you note, just a thank you, like, hey, thank you so much for that introduction. We would have never met this person without you and leveraging your friendships to get us in the door. Never a thank you for that. And that bothers me. That's not how we operate ethically as a business. And so evaluating your partners and staying in tune with them is a lesson learned just to protect yourself. Again, like you said, Lindsey, I brought that person into the table, so my name is behind it. I had no idea they were even doing work. So if something went wrong, guess whose name is also going down the drain? Mine.
Yours.
And I had no idea. I can't be there to monitor it and speak to it intelligently. I had no idea. So with their sidebar choice to go and chase business without me at the table, they could have tanked my reputation.
Absolutely.
But I think that's symptomatic that they just didn't care.
Yeah.
So
That's unfortunate.
It is. But before we wrap this podcast up, I'm going to share a story that's the complete opposite of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. At what point do you stop partnering and try to bring all the expertise in-house?
That's a good question. Every business has its tipping point where they know they've reached a capacity and it's time to hire. I mean, you know this, Lindsey, right? Yep. We try and do as much as we can on our own, and then we have that tipping point of we should hire someone for this. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I think it makes sense to potentially use a partner less and potentially bring in your own team. A good example is in our world, we typically work with a partner for software engineering. If at the point we are at capacity and we have probably, I'd say 3 or 4 engineering teams full time building, then we should probably consider bringing that in-house. And that's okay. I think that's common knowledge between partners. They know that it's to get you over a hump. And that hump may last a month or it may last 10 years. It doesn't really matter, or it may be indefinite. So I think that's what you have to monitor and keep an eye out for. What's that tipping point to where it would be more cost effective to bring it in-house?
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that there's multiple factors to that. It's not just because we only have so many hours in a day. It's not just because we have this type of experience like you talked about, but it's also like where you tied in earlier into the episode, and other ones for that matter, that you're seeking other expertise from other people.
Yes.
And you can draw from that and you learn from those things, and you can add new things to your company by hiring other people. It's not saying you're out there stealing it.
No.
By no means, but it's just learning from those people. And it's like, well, then how do we bring this back in-house? How do we apply this in our way? How do we make this customized to APG?
That's right.
For instance.
Well, and it's important for me, anyone that we hire as a full-time employee, for me to be able to nurture their career. I don't want to just hire someone who knows a trick and say, all right, good luck, go do your trick. They need to have their career nurtured, and to have someone who can weigh in and give them critical feedback, constructive feedback, put them on an education trajectory, help them grow their career, and ultimately do more and more and more.
Mm-hmm. So you said that there was another story that you wanted to share with us.
Yeah, so complete opposite of the one earlier. I don't ever like to just share bad stories and bad news. I like to share the good too. We were introduced several years ago to a firm based in Costa Rica who does software development, and they can do it all. They do web, mobile, data, automations, and we were introduced to the founder of the company. And it was one of those things in like the first conversation. His name is Arturo Garcia. He's a great guy. In the first conversation, we just hit it off. And I could tell there was a cultural alignment in terms of what's important from a values perspective. Everything kept coming back to what's right by the customer. What is the right way to do business? What's the right way for us to do business together as potential partners? And what that's developed into over time is we are often a funnel bringing projects to them, but they always join us at the table at the earliest stages, to understand what is the problem we're trying to solve. What are the constraints the client may have? Is it something to where they don't have any technology teams in-house and we need to do it all? Or do they have a technology team in-house and we need to do part of it? It's just a bidirectional conversation. It's always productive. They challenge us to do better. We challenge them to do better. We share information openly back and forth, and it's worked out extremely well for both of our companies. Some of our favorite people, I mean, I feel like they're part of our team. Some of our favorite engineers work for Arturo's company, and we just adore them. It's a joy to be on a Zoom call with them. It's a joy to be on Slack with them. Nice. And we just have this implicit trust that they're going to do good work because they've demonstrated it, and they're good people. And it's just, that's what feels good in a partnership. And we're on, I've lost count of how many projects we've done together with Arturo's team, but they're top of the list now because they are so agreeable. They are so collaborative, and the quality of their work is outstanding. And that's the dream partner right there. Another one, a fellow I worked with at Solemn Consulting years ago, started his own firm, and it's in the data and analytics space. And same sort of thing, culturally speaking. It's Nelson and Nathan, they lead that company. They are wonderful. They're always willing to take our call and riff on ideas, join a meeting if we need them, if we need someone with data expertise that may not be available on our side. And they're just collaborative, and they mean well, and you know they're coming from a good place. Your gut tells you that they are the right people to be in the room at the time. There's no schmarminess. There's no behind the scenes sidebar conversations or trying to wheel and deal to land some fast money. I'm grateful, knock on wood again. That's this knocking sound that y'all always hear in the microphone. We don't need to chase fast money. We're in it for the long term. So this sort of cutthroat, let's just get a contract and get some people staffed, forget that. If that's your partnership style, don't call me.
Yeah. And you have to align yourself with the right people. And that's where I just want to wrap up the episode of just kind of reiterating the fact that, yes, Justin has given you those golden nuggets of like being careful to protect yourself, with partnerships and stuff. But it's also taking those lessons along the way and those moments of maturity to better align yourself with people.
That's right. And
people that are going to want to see you succeed because they care. And that means the same for you. I mean, that's that dual partnership that you want to have and that value that other partnerships and stuff bring. Because at the end of the day, again, we're all small business owners and we just want to succeed and we want to lift each other up.
That's totally it. I have so much empathy for what other small businesses have gone through to get to where they are, whether they are a sole proprietor or if they have a small team or even have grown into a larger team. I have so much empathy for what they've gone through and what it takes to make that happen because I've done it. And we've done it at APG as a team. I want them to be successful. I want to funnel business their way. I want them to get another contract. And I feel like I found the right partner when they feel the same way about us.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Justin, for those gold nuggets and teaching us some new things and just sharing those moments of maturity.
You're welcome. I hope it helps.